This next tutorial, we're going to go through and we're going to combine some objects together. This is kind of a callback to working with our snow person. So if you still have a snow person, you can open it up and remove the arms that you made and do this tutorial with it, or you could build the arms and merge them in later. To give it a little bit of context though, what I'm going to do is click here in perspective, go to sphere, and under keyboard entry, I'm going to enter a value of 100, oops, 100, not 1000, and click create. And then just not the bottom one, but the one above it, zoom extents all selected. All right, I got a sphere. Let's go ahead and we'll turn on edged faces. And now I'm just going to create a cylinder. So I'm just going to click here, drag up. So it's going to modify. Let's change these values. So I'm going to set it to a radius of 10. Let's even go thinner. A radius of 5. I'm going to change it to a height of 150. I'm going to leave it height segments of 5. I'm going to reduce the number of sides to 6, and that's where it gets important. Reducing the number of sides to 6 makes this a lot easier and more manageable to work with. So now I have this kind of stick. Let's go ahead, let's throw our select in place on our object here. Just going to drag it over. Let's orbit around so we're kind of looking at the right side here. Kind of place it. See in the top, that's kind of what I want to do. All right, that's pretty good. I'm just going to go back to move. And now I want to change my coordinate system from view to local. And what I'm going to do, orbit around a little bit, I'm going to zoom out some. I'm going to right click on this model and say clone. I'm going to clone as an instance. And now let's just move it out here a little bit. And then actually let's grab both of them. I'm going to change the color from red. Red's not really good for tutorials. Say, okay, there we go. And now I'm going to right click and say rotate. And again, I'm going to change the coordinate system to local. So I can kind of rotate that over. There we go. I think that's good. And then I'm going to go ahead and clone it again as an instance. Right click and say move and just kind of zoom that out. And rotate that again. There we go. All right, now this one I want to be kind of more of like I'm going to actually move him out just a little bit more. This is kind of sitting out a little bit further. And then right click and clone him again. But this time I'm going to clone it as a copy. Move it down now. If you didn't clone as a copy, that's okay. Just hit the button here. That'll make it unique because we're going to have a little bit of fun with this guy. We're going to actually right click on him. We're going to say scale. And we're going to switch our scale to local because I just want to scale him along X and scale him in on Z. There we go. That's looking good. All right. Let me come back to this guy. Let's actually bring this down a little bit smaller. And then we'll right click, clone him again as an instance and move him down. And just kind of rotate him a little bit. Maybe go back to move. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of looking at where they are, and I want to leave a little bit of a gap between each one. Let's clone it again as an instance. Move it down and rotate it one more time. Oops. There we go. This is kind of in position. So we're going to start attaching these together, and that's going to be fun. But before we do it, let's go ahead and make them a little bit more interesting by putting a little taper modifier on them. And we'll just crank up the curve a little bit. Taper them up a little. There we go. All right, so let's see. Let's look at them. What we're going to do is we're going to build the geometry that would go between them. So I'm going to maximize this view and orbit around. So it really helps if we have a nice gap between them that kind of lines up. So we may move them up. At this point, I'm going to make this guy unique. So I'm going to come over here and click the middle mouse to say make unique. And then I'm going to come into scale. I'm going to scale him in. So I want to have a nice gap between him and the next piece. So, all right. Now I'm going to go to the original arm piece here. And I'm going to I'm actually going to right click on it and say convert to edit poly. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to say attach. And I'm going to attach this first piece. Right click to get off of that. Let's go to polygon. If I click on this end, I'm going to come over here and orbit around. Because I want to be able to see both of these. I'm going to click on it and hit delete. And click on the one next to it and hit delete. Now, we did reduce the number of sides to 6, so it makes this easier. And because they are the same amount, chances are if we go to border and region select over the two of them, let's hit bridge and see if it worked. And it did, right? That actually worked out really good. If you end up with weird pinching, if your objects are too close together, just go to go to edge, click on one of the edges that's easy to see and hit ring, and then just come over here and relax and just click on that once and see what that does. That may help it, it may not, right? It's worth trying out. Of course, anytime you make new polygons, they're not going to have smoothing groups assigned, so just go into element, click on your model, and hit auto smooth as you go. All right, let's move out to our next piece here. This is going to be, I'm going to turn on Alt-R to orbit, and I'm clicking in the center to move around. And now I'm going to go ahead and click on what I kind of consider the hand here. And same thing, I'm going to click on this polygon, orbit around, hit delete, and select this polygon and hit delete. And let's try our bridge trick again. So let's grab those two borders and hit bridge. And that worked, right? And if it doesn't, if they come in at weird angles, which they do sometimes, you can manually just come in and bridge them all together. If bridge isn't working, then chances are you haven't deleted a polygon. So make sure you're deleting those polygons. There we go. We can come in here now. If I double click on this edge, actually I'm going to double click on this one. I'm going to come up to loops, and now I want to hit set flow and see how that kind of averages out the spacing. So I'll double click on this one, say loops, set flow, and watch how it averages out the spacing between those. It's really nice. All right, so I'm gonna skip over attaching these. I'm going to hold top level. I'm going to click on this piece, and now I'm going to say make unique again. And I'm going to right click on it, convert to edit poly, and because he's a unique now, I can go ahead and attach. If you have an object that's an instance, you can't attach it to another one. I'm going to do attach to this one, and then remember, go into polygon, orbit around, delete, polygon, and delete. Now let's see if we can grab these, bridge them. All right, that looks good. Orbit around, and I'm going to just select this polygon and delete. Let's grab those and bridge them. There we go. I got a halfway decent looking finger. I'm going to alt element and just hit auto smooth. One thing I like to do is if I do end up with a little cap, that's kind of one sort of mesh like this. I like to go in and select 2 points and hit connect so I don't end up with, I don't want to end up with one 6-sided polygon at the end. I like to keep them 4-sided. So. All right, so now because we started with this one down here, we could right click and say clone as an instance and move him down and go into rotate, and we kind of rotate him a little bit. Boom slightly. Again, right click, clone, and I'm cloning all these as instances. We'll move them. Now this one's going to be for a thumb, so this one's a little bit trickier. Why don't we do select in place? We'll kind of move them over. There we go. That's good. Maybe we'll click and hold and select in place and go into rotate so we can kind of rotate them a little bit. Perfect. And then we'll come down to the last one. I'm going to switch back to move this time. because I just want to clone him as an instance. Just kind of move him down and rotate him. We can kind of check what we have by just kind of zooming out here. It's all pretty cool. If you want to, you know, make it a little bit wilder, you can sort of grab those points and kind of move them all back. Just kind of orbit them, adjust it the way you want. Now you'll notice that our thumb has an extra joint, so let's just fix that real quick. I'm going to come into polygon and hit delete on these. Oops, you know what? They're all deleting. That's because they're instances. We better stop that. I'm going to undo it. I'm going to click and just, I have to be up at the top level, and now I can click and say make unique. So I'm going to come in here in edge mode. I'm going to double click, oops, on one of these guys right below the knuckle. I'm going to grab all those and then hit delete. And then I can go into element and hit delete. And at this point now, I could just go into bridge. And I can bridge these guys together. Oops. Sometimes it's tricky to find the side. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to come back here and select the main primary arm and go into attach. Just attach these other pieces. There we go. And in polygon here, did I miss one? I did. Attach all those together. All right. And now in polygon, I'm going to make sure I delete those polygons on the end. There we go. And so between my pieces, I'm going to look for areas where I have obvious, easy connections to make. And I'm just going to kind of click on those edges and hit bridge. And look for the ones that kind of look like they're sort of facing each other. Oops. Oh. Bridge. There we go. And just kind of keep working my way around. Looking for ones that can hit like that. And then these guys are pretty close together. I'm just going to go to element, and let's zoom out here. And it's just going to shift these over and down a little bit just to make a little bit of space to keep working. There we go. And then I'm going to keep looking for areas where I can make easy connections. And because I did bridge between them, if I go to edge and select an edge and say ring, I can collapse that down, edge, ring, collapse. Now I have less edges. If I click border here, you'll see I have 10 edges as opposed to the 6 down here. So let's just go ahead and keep making our obvious connections. 1, 2. And if I come up here and down to this one, I'm just going to click on an edge and use orbit, because then it orbits around what I have selected. It's easier to get around. I'll just come back in here and say bridge and bridge that. All right, it's looking pretty good. I'm going to go into border and region select and kind of orbit around. You'll see that there's a couple triangles here and there. So let's just, with all those selected, hit cap, it'll build a polygon on them. And then we can kind of grab everything. I'm going to click on this guy and say hide selected, and then go into polygon and just grab everything that kind of makes up this lower chunk of the hand. Kind of like that. And then if you remember relax, let's just click on that once, twice. There we go. It's kind of creepy looking. If we wanted to adjust the form a little bit more, we could orbit around and grab a polygon like this and just kind of move it out. There we go. It's looking kind of weird and alien. Kind of digging it. Remember, I'd go into element and hit auto smooth. Let's unhide all. So remember, we still had our weird thumb out here, so why don't we go ahead and we'll delete some polygons we're going to need to connect them. Make sure you delete the cap off the bottom. And then let's look for, again, for our easiest and obvious connections. So in edge mode, go into bridge, Look for areas where polygons look like they line up really well. And remember, it's easy to select an edge and then use orbit to orbit around. And we'll just come back in here and bridge over here. We'll orbit around some more. Look at that. Here's what we're going to do. So that's interesting. Let me go into display and turn on backface call. Basically, I'm at this point where I have, like, if I come in and hit border, I have 5 edges. So let's figure out which one. I'm only going to be able to do so many connections. So why don't we just hit cap on it and then go into vertex. I'm going to manually select these points here and hit connect. These points here and hit connect. There we go. It's kind of how we used to do it in the old days. Make everything out of triangles like that. Come in, hit cap, and then go into vertex. And I'm just going to select these 2 points and hit connect to define them. Same thing here. Select these 2 and hit connect to define them. All right. Let's grab those vertex points in that general area and just kind of hit relax on it. There we go. It's definitely weird. Go to element, click on it, and hit auto smooth. There we go. So now we got this weird, cool arm or hand, and we could call it arm left. And so if we want, then what we could do is we could actually come up here and there's a mirror button. So we can click mirror and just set it to mirror instance. And you could just change the axis that it's getting mirrored on. It does get mirrored based off of the world. So I hit cancel and I'm going to change it to view. And now we'll go into mirror again and set it to instance and see how now it's just doing it right across the X there. So perfect. We can zoom out and just move it over on the side. And there you go. Now, if you really want to do something truly insane, you can move it out a little bit more and then come in here and let's figure out where it was going in. What we could do is convert this to an edit poly. I'm going to select this one point here and hit delete. And then I can go to polygon, oops, with the ball selected, go ahead and click attach. And then select that polygon on the bottom. Oops, there it is. And then how many we got? Zoom out, that's 6, and this is 8, isn't it? Okay. What we can do is just bridge it right here. Oops, I accidentally did bridge. That's not what I wanted. I'm going to manually bridge 1, 2. So I know this isn't exactly, nope, not what I wanted. 1, 2. And orbit around, and we'll bridge here. 1, 2. Oops, try and get that. Sometimes you got to orbit around to see that where you're bridging better. And this time I'm going to select this edge and say loop, remove loop, loop, remove loop, and then I can just come in and click on that border, cap it, border, cap it, and I can come into edge, select that edge, and hit ring, and now come in and say loop, flow connect. Do it one more time, ring, loop, flow connect, ring, loops, flow connect. There we go. Now I've attached it. So, and if we wanted to get really crazy, double click on it, hold control and select that polygon. Maybe grow that selection and just hit relax. And now you're getting something truly bizarre and alien looking. I don't even know what we're making here. So go ahead and slap a symmetry on it. And now you made a weird thing. Look at that. It's your start of making a weird sort of critter creature thing. Oh, one thing you'll notice that because we're just using the default for set for smoothing, it is kind of putting a ridge on there. So you can always go into element, click on it. You can change it. You can adjust the auto smooth to like 90 and hit auto smooth. And then that'll do a better job. But there you go. Now we kind of made branches. Of course, I took it way too far and attached it to a body, but you get the general idea.